The Varth Council chamber had not seen such chaos in 300 years. Kale stood alone before the 7 High Counselors. Enduring their fury as they processed his report, he had lost 8 hunters. He had failed to claim a single territory, and worst of all, he had made a proposal that challenged everything the Varth believed about themselves. "You suggest we recognize these humans as equals?" thundered Counselor Voss, his 4 eyes blazing with outrage. "They are prey. Nothing more. With respect, Counselor, they are not prey. They are soft and slow and weak, and yet they killed 8 of my best hunters," Kale replied calmly. 8 veterans who had survived dozens of hunts, all dead at the hands of these soft, slow, weak creatures. Silence fell over the chamber. Kale pressed his advantage. "I have studied human history," he continued, "and what I found should concern every Vorith in this room." He activated a holographic display showing images from Earth's past, 60,000 years ago. Humans shared their world with dozens of large predator species, and they were not the strongest or fastest among them. The images shifted to show ancient hunting scenes, but humans developed persistence hunting, a technique where they would pursue prey for days without rest until the target collapsed from exhaustion. "What has this to do with us?" demanded Counselor Myra. "Everything, because that is exactly what they did to my hunters." Kale let that sink in before continuing. "They tracked us, harassed us, denied us rest, and wore us down until we made mistakes. And then they struck." He displayed footage from the hunt, showing Varth hunters being outmaneuvered and killed. They coordinated across vast distances using technology we did not expect, and they adapted to our tactics within hours of first contact. "Then we sent more hunters," Voss insisted. 100, 1,000, enough to overwhelm their defenses. "And they will adapt again," Kale replied. "They will study our methods, develop countermeasures, and kill more of us." He stepped closer to the council. "Humans are not like the Kaleshi or the Mendari," he said. "Those species had specialized advantages that we could exploit, but humans have no specialization, only endless adaptability." "You speak as though you admire them," Counselor Myra accused. "I do admire them," Kale admitted, "because they are the first species we have ever encountered that hunts the way we do." He let that statement hang in the air. The Varth had always believed themselves unique in the galaxy, the only true apex predators among the stars. The idea that another species might share that status was almost unthinkable, but the evidence was undeniable. "What exactly are you proposing?" asked the eldest counselor, a scarred veteran named Krath, who had remained silent until now. "A compact," Kale replied. "Recognition of humans as hunter equals rather than prey. Ending all hunting operations against their species." "Unacceptable," Voss growled. "In exchange," Kale continued, "humans have offered something unprecedented. What could prey possibly offer us?" "Partnership." The council fell silent again. "Humans wish to join us in hunts against other species," Kale explained. "They have expressed interest in testing themselves against the dangerous creatures on our preserve worlds." "They want to hunt with us?" Counselor Myra asked with disbelief. "They are hunters," Kale said simply. "It is what hunters do." "And what do they want in return?" "Protection," Kale replied. "They know there are other predatory species in the galaxy, and they want allies who can help defend their world." Counselor Krath leaned forward. "You believe this is a genuine offer?" "I do, because I looked into the eyes of their leader and saw what I see in my own reflection every day." Kale touched the ritual scars on his chest. "Humans understand the hunt the way we do," he said. "They respect it, they honor it, and they are very, very good at it." The debate continued for hours, but Kale could see the council, slowly coming around. The loss of 8 elite hunters had shaken them badly. The idea of facing a species that could match the Vorith in persistence and ruthlessness was terrifying. but the idea of having such a species as an ally was intriguing. 3 months later, the first exchange hunt took place on a Vorath preserve world. Kale stood at the edge of a vast savanna, watching a mixed group of Vorath and human hunters prepare for the pursuit. Among them was Sergeant Una Park, now officially designated as humanity's first hunter ambassador. She carried a human rifle alongside the traditional Vorath hunting blade that Kale had presented to her as a gift of respect. "Are you ready?" Kale asked her. "I have been ready my whole life," Una replied. "My ancestors hunted on plains like this for 100,000 years. Then let us see if you can keep up with the Vorath." Una smiled. "Let us see if you can keep up with me." They moved out together, human and Vorath hunting side by side for the first time in history. The prey was a massive creature called a thornback, dangerous enough that it had killed several Vorath hunters over the years. But this hunt was different. The humans brought their endurance and their coordination. The Vorath brought their strength and their ambush tactics. Together, they were unstoppable when the thornback finally fell after a 3-day pursuit. Both species roared their triumph to the alien sky. Kale looked at Una, covered in dust and blood and grinning like a predator who had just made the greatest kill of her life. "You fought well, human. So did you, Vorath. Perhaps your species is worthy of respect after all." Una laughed. "We were always worthy," she said. "You just needed to learn that the hard way." In the years that followed, the partnership between humans and Vorath grew stronger. Human hunters earned honors on Vorath preserve worlds. Vorath hunters learned new techniques from human experts, and across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement as the universe's top hunters welcomed a new addition to their ranks. The Kaleshi had been conquered. The Mandari had been exterminated, but humanity had done what no other species had ever accomplished. They had earned the respect of the Vorath by proving themselves equal on the Veil. Anniversary of the first exchange hunt. Kale and Una stood together on the observation deck of a Vorath warship, looking down at Earth. "I often wonder what would have happened if we had succeeded in hunting your people." Kale mused. "You would have tried," Una replied. "And you would have failed because humans do not surrender." "I know that now." Una turned to face him. "Do you regret coming to Earth?" Kale considered the question carefully. He had lost friends on that frozen world. He had experienced fear and defeat for the first time in his life. But he had also discovered something precious, a species worthy of standing beside the Vorath. "No," he said finally. "I do not regret it, because finding humanity changed us." "Changed you how?" "We had grown stagnant," Kale admitted, hunting easy prey, never facing true challenge. "And we were becoming soft." He looked at the blue-green planet below. "Humanity reminded us what it means to be hunters," he said. "And for that, I am grateful." Una nodded. "Then it was worth it," she said. "For both our peoples." They stood in silence for a moment. Two predators who had learned to see each other as equals. Then Una spoke again. "So, Huntmaster, are you ready for the next hunt?" Kale bared his teeth in the Vorath expression of eager anticipation. "Always. Hunter Ambassador." "Good," Una replied, her own smile turning sharp and dangerous. "Because I heard rumors of a particularly challenging prey species in the Outer Rim." "Then let us go introduce ourselves. Together." The two hunters walked toward the ship's command center, ready to face whatever the galaxy might throw at them. The universe had many predators, but none of them were quite like the partnership of human and Vorath. Two apex species united by mutual respect and a shared love of the hunt. The galaxy was not ready for them. It would learn. Only 4 Vorath remained alive on Earth. Kale had lost 8 of his finest hunters to creatures that were supposed to be easy prey. And now he found himself doing something no huntmaster had ever done before. He was hiding. The forest around him was silent, except for the whisper of wind through the branches. But Kale knew that silence was deceptive. Somewhere out there, human hunters were searching for him. Using their invisible communications and their relentless patience to close the trap, he had underestimated them badly. They all had "Huntmaster," whispered Thesa from her position nearby. "I am detecting movement to the south. At least 8 individuals approaching in a spread formation." Kale considered his options. He could fight. But 8 humans with their projectile weapons would almost certainly kill at least one of his remaining hunters. Probably more. He could run, but the humans would follow. And they never seemed to tire, or he could do something that went against every instinct in his predator brain. He could talk. "Hold your position," he ordered Thesa. "I am going to try something. Huntmaster, just trust me." Kale moved through the forest toward the approaching humans, making no effort to hide his presence when he emerged into a small clearing. He found himself facing a semicircle of raised weapons. At the center of the line stood a human female with sharp eyes and a calm expression. She was not beautiful by Vara standards. Too small and soft and fragile, but there was something in her gaze that Kale recognized immediately. This was a hunter who had made many kills. "You are the leader," he said, keeping his arms low and his bone blades retracted. "Sergeant Una Park," the female replied. "And you must be the one in charge of this hunting party. Supreme Huntmaster Kale of the Varth Dominion. Not very supreme anymore, considering how many of your hunters we have killed." Kale felt a flash of anger but suppressed it. Anger would not help him here. "You are skilled," he admitted. "More skilled than any prey species we have ever encountered. That is because we are not prey. I am beginning to understand that." They stood facing each other across the clearing, predator to predator, while snow drifted down from the gray sky. "I did not come here to fight," Kale said finally. "Then why did you come?" "To understand," he gestured at the forest around them. "My people have hunted across 63 worlds, and we have never found anything like humanity. Because every other species we have encountered eventually surrendered to fear." He paused, searching for the right words in this primitive human language. "But you do not surrender," he continued. "Your fear makes you more dangerous, not less. And I want to know why." Una studied him for a long moment. "Lower your weapons," she told her team. "But stay alert." She took a step forward, close enough now that Kale could have struck her down with a single blow. She knew it too. But she did not flinch. "Do you want to know why we fight?" she asked. "Yes, because we have been hunted before." Una reached into her pocket and pulled out a small stone blade. "Primitive and ancient, 60,000 years ago. My ancestors lived in a world full of predators," she explained. "Lions, hyenas, crocodiles, wolves. And we were not the strongest or the fastest or the deadliest." She held up the stone blade. "But we were the smartest. And we were the most stubborn, and we never stopped fighting." "What happened to those predators?" "We killed them," Una said simply. "Not all of them. But any that threatened us learned to fear humans. Or they died." She put the stone blade away. "We are the apex predators of our world, Huntmaster. And we earned that title by being better hunters than anything else that tried to hunt us." Kale absorbed this information among the Varth. Apex status was assumed, a birthright of their evolution. They had never needed to fight for it. Humans had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through generations of relentless competition. No wonder they were so dangerous. "You are not what we expected," Kale admitted. "What did you expect?" "Easy prey." Una laughed, a strange barking sound that Kale did not fully understand. "Your mistake," she said. "But it does not have to be a fatal one." "What do you mean?" "You came here looking for a hunt," Una said. "And you found one. Just not the kind you expected." She gestured at her soldiers. We do not want war with your dominion, because war means more death on both sides, and neither of us gains anything from that. Then what do you want? Recognition, Una said. Your people clearly respect hunting ability. So acknowledge that humans are not prey, and leave our world in peace. Kale considered this. The Vorath Council would be furious at the loss of 8 elite hunters. They would want revenge. Want to send a full invasion fleet to scour this world clean. But Kale had seen what humanity could do when threatened. A full invasion would be costly beyond anything the Dominion had ever experienced. And if we agree to this recognition, he asked, then maybe we can find a better arrangement, such as? Una smiled. You wanted to hunt worthy prey, she said. And we wanted to protect our world from predators like you. She extended her hand. A human gesture Kale did not recognize but understood intuitively. What if instead of hunting each other, we hunted together? Kale stared at the offered hand in all of Vorath history. They had never made alliance with another species. Other beings were either predators to be avoided, competitors to be destroyed, or prey to be hunted. But humans did not fit any of those categories. They were something new, something equal. Slowly, carefully, Kale extended one of his own hands and grasped Una's. Her grip was firm and confident. The grip of a hunter who feared nothing. I cannot promise my council will accept this, Kale warned. Then convince them, Una replied. Or we can go back to hunting each other, and we both know how that will end. Kale remembered the bodies of his hunters, worn down and killed by relentless human pursuit. He remembered the fear he had felt when he realized the prey was hunting him. He did not want to experience that again. I will speak to them, he said. Una nodded and released his hand. Good. And while you are convincing them, think about this. Humans have been looking at the stars for thousands of years, wondering what was out there. She looked up at the gray sky. We always knew we were not alone, she continued, and we always knew that someday something would come looking for us. She met his eyes. We have been preparing for you, Huntmaster. And we have been preparing for a very long time. Kale felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. The Vorath had found humanity by accident. A random discovery on a routine expansion patrol. But humanity had been waiting for them, planning for them, preparing. You are a terrifying species, Kale said. Thank you, Una replied. Now let us discuss terms. Sergeant Una Park had spent 15 years teaching people how to survive in the wilderness. She had trained soldiers and civilians alike, showing them how to track animals, build shelters, find food, and most importantly, how to think like predators rather than prey. None of that had prepared her for this, but she was adapting. Show me again, she said to the intelligence officer, watching the footage recovered from a crashed alien landing craft. The screen displayed one of the creatures in combat, all four arms moving with deadly precision as it attacked a military patrol. It was fast, faster than any human could match in direct confrontation. Its bone blades cut through body, armor like paper. Its gray skin seemed to blend with shadows, making it nearly invisible in low light. We're calling them Vorath, the officer explained. Based on intercepted communications, and as near as we can tell, they are some kind of apex predator species that hunts other intelligent beings for sport. Una watched the creature move. It was good. Very good, but it was not perfect. She could see patterns in how it attacked. Predictable sequences that a trained eye could anticipate. They are ambush predators, she observed. They rely on surprise and overwhelming force in the initial strike. But look here. She pointed to a moment where the Vorath hesitated after its first attack failed to kill immediately. When their prey does not die quickly, they become uncertain. Una continued. They are not used to extended engagements. The general standing beside her nodded slowly. What do you recommend, Sergeant? We stop acting like prey, Una said. These things have probably never encountered a species that hunts back. So we need to show them what happens when predators meet predators within 48 hours. Una was leading a specialized team into the northern wilderness where the alien leader had been tracked. Her team consisted of 12 soldiers, each one selected for their hunting experience and psychological resilience. They were not going to defend against the Vorath. They were going to hunt them. Remember your training. Una told her teams they prepared to deploy. These things are physically superior to us in almost every way. But that does not matter. She held up her rifle. This is our claw, she said. She held up her radio. This is our pack bond. She tapped her temple. And this is our greatest weapon. Because humans do not just hunt with our bodies. We hunt with our minds. The team moved into the forest like ghosts, spreading out in a wide net designed to locate and track rather than engage directly. Una had studied every piece of footage and every survivor account available. She knew how the Vorath hunted. Now she was going to use that knowledge against them. The first contact came on the second day. Private Chun spotted tracks in the snow, large and alien, with 4 distinct toe marks on each foot. I have a trail, he reported through his radio, heading northeast toward the river valley. All units converge on Chun's position, Una ordered, but maintain spacing and stay alert for ambush. They followed the trail for 6 hours, taking shifts to ensure no one became too tired to think clearly. The Vorath creature was moving fast, but it was leaving signs everywhere. Broken branches, disturbed snow, marks on tree bark where those bone blades had scraped. It did not know how to hide from human trackers. It had never needed to learn. As night fell, they found where the creature had stopped to rest. The site was abandoned. But Una noticed something important. It did not sleep, she observed, pointing to the lack of any impression in the snow. It just stood here for a few hours. Maybe they do not need sleep? Suggested Corporal Reyes. Everything needs rest, Una replied, which means it is already tired. And tired hunters make mistakes. They pressed on through the night, rotating point position to keep fresh eyes at the front of the column by dawn. They had closed the gap significantly. The tracks were fresh now. No more than an hour-old contact, whispered Private Okonkwo from his position on the left flank. I can see it through my scope, approximately 300 meters northeast. Do not engage, Una ordered. Everyone mark your position and prepare for Phase 2. Phase 2 was Una's adaptation of persistence hunting, the technique her ancient ancestors had used to exhaust prey animals across the African savanna. Humans were not the fastest runners. They were not the strongest fighters, but they were the greatest endurance hunters the Earth had ever produced. They could run for days when necessary. They could track prey across any terrain, and they never, ever gave up. The Vorath was faster than them in a sprint, but it could not maintain that speed indefinitely. Every time it stopped to rest, they caught up. Every time it tried to ambush them. Their overlapping fields of view and constant communication warned the group before anyone could be caught alone. For 3 days and 3 nights, they pursued the creature across the frozen wilderness. They ate while walking. They slept in shifts. Never all at once, they became a tireless machine of pursuit. Always present, always watching, always getting closer on the 4th day. They found their quarry. The Vorath was standing in a clearing, visibly exhausted, its forearms hanging limp at its sides when it saw them merging from the tree line in a coordinated semicircle. It did not try to run. It knew there was no point. Una stepped forward. Weapon raised but not firing, the creature stared at her with its 4 alien eyes. And she saw something she had not expected: respect. You are not like the others, it said in broken, heavily accented English, clearly learned from intercepted communications. You are hunters, Yes, Una replied. We are. Good. The creature raised its bone blades. Then let us see which hunter is stronger. What followed was brief and brutal. The Vorath was formidable, even exhausted. But 12 trained soldiers with modern weapons and coordinated tactics were more formidable still when it was over. Una stood over the fallen alien, breathing hard. She felt no joy in the killing. This creature had been a predator, same as her, but it had come to her world looking for prey. And it had found something else entirely. She keyed her radio. Command. This is Sergeant Park. One target neutralized. And we are moving to intercept the remaining hostiles. Copy that. Sergeant. Una looked at her team. They were tired and battered, but their eyes were bright with a fierce kind of pride. They had proven something important today. Humans were not prey. Humans were the apex predators of Earth. And they had earned that title by being smarter, more persistent, and more ruthless than anything else that had ever evolved on their planet. Now the universe was learning that lesson too. Move out. She ordered. The hunt was not over. The first kill came easily for Kale. Just as he had expected, the human never even saw him coming. One moment the creature was walking back toward its camp with an armful of firewood. And the next moment Kale's bone blade had opened its throat. The body fell silently into the snow. Steam rising from the wound in the cold air, Kale felt the familiar rush of satisfaction that came with every kill. He dragged the body away from the camp and hung it from a tree branch, marking it with his scent so he could return for the trophy later. Then he circled back toward the remaining humans, eager to continue. But when he returned to the camp, something was wrong. The other humans were not panicking. They were not screaming or running blindly into the darkness like prey animals should. Instead, they had formed a tight circle with their backs together, weapons raised, eyes scanning the tree line with calm focus. Contact confirmed, one of them said into a small device. One casualty, unknown hostile in the area. Requesting immediate backup. Kale hesitated. He had hunted hundreds of species across dozens of worlds, and he knew how prey was supposed to behave. This was not it. The humans began moving as a unit, covering each other as they retreated toward a nearby structure. Their movements were coordinated and practiced, like pack hunters rather than prey. When one of them stumbled, the others immediately adjusted to protect the weak point. Kale decided to test them. He burst from the tree line at full speed, all 4 arms extended, bone blades gleaming in the firelight. The humans reacted instantly. 3 of them opened fire with their projectile weapons, while the other 2 pulled the group behind cover. The projectiles were faster than Kale had anticipated. One of them struck his shoulder armor, and to his shock, it actually penetrated. Pain flared through his arm as the metal fragment tore into muscle. He aborted his charge and retreated into the forest, ichor dripping from his wound. What manner of weapons are these? He growled to himself. The scouts had said primitive. The scouts had said no threat. The scouts had been wrong. These's voice crackled through his communicator. Huntmaster, I am tracking the group you engaged, but something strange is happening. Report. More humans are arriving, many more, and they are communicating across vast distances using some kind of invisible signal network. Kale felt the first stirring of unease on other worlds. Killing a few members of a group scattered the rest. Fear was supposed to spread, paralyzing the prey and making them easy targets. But these humans were not scattering. They were gathering over the next several hours. Reports came in from the other hunting parties, and each one was more disturbing than the last. Hunters Vaughn and Kresh in the southern continent had killed 3 humans before being driven back by organized resistance. The humans had used explosive devices and coordinated fire from multiple positions, forcing the 2 Vorath to retreat. Hunters Mal and Set in the eastern islands had successfully ambushed a human settlement. But within hours, Flying machines had arrived, carrying armed humans who fought with surprising ferocity. The Vorath had been forced to flee into the mountains, but the worst news came from hunters Drex and Thal in the western territories. They had stopped responding entirely. Kale dispatched Thesa to investigate. While he continued his own hunt, the humans in his territory had retreated to a fortified structure, and more of them kept arriving throughout the night. He watched from the darkness, counting their numbers and studying their behavior. What he saw disturbed him deeply. The humans shared information constantly. Every time one of them spotted something, they immediately told the others. They drew maps and made plans. They discussed what they had learned about the Vorath attack patterns and adjusted their defenses accordingly. This was not prey behavior. This was hunter behavior. Thesa returned near dawn with a grim expression. "I found Drex and Thal," she reported. "Dead?" "Very dead, Huntmaster." She held up a small device that projected an image. Kale stared at it for a long moment, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. The two Vorath hunters had been killed, but not quickly. Their bodies showed dozens of wounds, each one small, but placed with precision. They had been tracked, harassed, and worn down over what must have been hours before the final killing blows. They were hunted, Kale whispered. "Yes, Huntmaster. Prey does not hunt. These humans do." Kale returned to the tree where he had hung his first kill, wanting at least one trophy from this increasingly troubling hunt. But the body was gone. In its place, someone had carved a symbol into the tree bark. It was crude, but unmistakable. A circle with crossed lines through it. A target. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were marking him. Kale felt something he had not experienced since he was a young hunter facing his first dangerous prey. Fear. He pushed it down immediately. He was Vorath. He was Supreme Huntmaster. He did not feel fear, but as the sun rose over the frozen forest, Kale found himself watching the shadows more carefully than before. The humans had night vision devices. He had learned they had long-range communication. They had weapons that could pierce Vorath armor, and most importantly, they had something no other prey species had ever demonstrated. They had the will to fight back. 4 of his hunters were already dead. The remaining 7 had been driven from their chosen territories and were regrouping at emergency coordinates for the first time in Vorath history. A hunting party was on the defensive. Kale opened a communication channel to the Crimson Fang. "This is Supreme Huntmaster Kale," he said. "Abort all secondary landing operations, Huntmaster," came a confused response. "These creatures are not prey," Kale said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "They are something else entirely." He looked out at the forest, knowing that somewhere in those trees, human eyes were watching him, waiting, planning hunting. They are competition. The Vorath had conquered 63 worlds before they found Earth. And on each of those worlds, the story had been the same. They arrived as hunters, and they left as gods. Supreme Huntmaster Kale stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Crimson Fang, watching the stars drift past like scattered bones across black silk. He was 8 feet tall with 4 muscular arms ending in retractable bone blades that could slice through steel. His skin was dark gray and covered in ritual scars, each one representing a hunt completed and a species conquered. The Vorath were the greatest hunters in the known galaxy, and everyone knew it. Their empire stretched across 3 star systems, built not on diplomacy or trade, but on the simple truth that they were the apex predators of the universe. They did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They hunted. Huntmaster called his second in command, a scarred female named Thesa. "We have received a final reconnaissance report on the new world." Kale turned from the window, his 4 eyes narrowing with interest. "Show me." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a blue and green planet covered in vast oceans and scattered landmasses. "The locals call it Earth," Lisa explained, "and the dominant species calls itself humanity." Images of humans appeared on the screen, and Kale felt a rumble of amusement in his chest. They were small, barely reaching 6 feet at their tallest. They had only 2 arms and 2 eyes. Their skin was soft and easily broken. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. "This is the dominant species?" Kale asked with disbelief. "Yes, Huntmaster. They look like prey animals." Thesa nodded in agreement. "Our scouts report that they have primitive projectile weapons and basic space travel capability, but nothing that should pose a threat to a proper hunting party." Kale studied the images more closely. The humans had built cities and machines, which showed some intelligence, but intelligence alone had never stopped the Varth before the Kaleshi had been brilliant scientists. And now their skulls decorated the Hall of Trophies. The Mendari had been master engineers, and their homeworld was now a Varth hunting preserve. "What is their combat capability?" Kale asked. "Minimal natural weapons," Thesa reported. "They rely entirely on tools and technology, and their physical abilities are unremarkable in every category. Speed? Slow compared to most prey species. Strength? Weak for their size. Senses? Limited visual range, poor hearing compared to the Varth standard, and almost no ability to detect heat signatures." Kale made his decision. "This world will serve as my ascension hunt," he declared. "I will take 11 of my finest warriors, and we will claim this Earth as our newest hunting ground." Thesa's eyes widened with honor. "An ascension hunt, Huntmaster? This is a great privilege for the humans among the Varth." Being chosen as the prey for an ascension hunt was considered almost respectful. It meant the species was worthy enough to mark an important occasion. Even if that occasion was their eventual extinction. "Assemble the hunting party," Kale commanded. "I want only veterans. Only those who have proven themselves on at least 10 worlds. It will be done." As Thesa left to carry out his orders, Kale returned his gaze to the image of Earth. Something about the planet nagged at him. Some small voice in the back of his mind that whispered caution. He dismissed it. The Varth had never failed a hunt. They had faced species with powerful psychic abilities, species with advanced weapons, species that could regenerate from almost any wound. All of them had fallen. What threat could these soft, slow, clawless creatures possibly pose? 3 days later, 12 Vorath hunters gathered in the launch bay of the Crimson Fang. They were the elite of the elite. Warriors whose combined kill counts numbered in the thousands. Each wore the traditional hunting armor of their people, lightweight plates that covered vital organs. While leaving their arms free for combat, each carried a ceremonial blade, passed down through generations of hunters, and each was eager to add human trophies to their collection. "Brothers and sisters," Kale addressed them. "Today we begin a hunt that will be remembered for generations." The hunters roared their approval. "This world has never known true predators," Kale continued. "They have grown soft and complacent at the top of their food chain, and they do not know what it means to be prey. More roars. We will teach them." The hunting ships launched from the Crimson Fang like arrows from a bow, each carrying 2 hunters toward a different region of Earth. Kale and Thesa took the northern territories, a vast expanse of forests and frozen lakes that reminded Kale of his homeworld. "The cold will make them sluggish," Thesa observed as they descended through the atmosphere. "They will seek shelter and warmth, and that will make them predictable." "Good," Kale replied. "Predictable prey is easy prey." They landed in a clearing surrounded by tall pine trees, the snow crunching beneath their feet as they emerged from their ship. The air was crisp and cold, filled with the scent of wood and ice and something else, something alive. I detect heat signatures to the north. Thesa reported, checking her scanner. A small group. Maybe 5 or 6 individuals? Kale extended his bone blades with a satisfying click. Then we begin. They move through the forest like shadows, their gray skin blending with the winter landscape. Navarath had evolved as ambush predators, patient and silent, capable of waiting for hours before striking with explosive violence. The human camp came into view through the trees. 6 of them sat around a fire, wrapped in thick clothing and laughing at some shared joke. They had weapons nearby, the primitive projectile tools the scouts had mentioned. But none of them were alert. None of them were watching the darkness between the trees. Kale felt almost disappointed. This was too easy. He signaled to Thesa, and they began their approach. The hunt had begun far above the planet. The Crimson Fang maintained its orbit, monitoring the progress of all 6 hunting parties. The communications officer noted that all teams had made successful landings and begun their hunts. Everything was proceeding according to plan. What the Varath did not know was that their arrival had not gone unnoticed deep within a mountain bunker. Human military officials were already analyzing the alien ships. Satellites had tracked the landing sites and across the planet. A species that had hunted mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, that had driven countless predators to extinction, that had waged endless wars against its own kind, was beginning to wake up the Varath. Thought they were beginning a hunt. They did not realize they were walking into one. The universe's greatest hunters had come to Earth expecting easy prey. They were about to discover why humans had no natural predators. It was not because they were weak. It was because everything that had ever tried to hunt them was already dead.